Namaste students, I am Krishna Kumar CS, PGT Economics, DAV BHL School, Ranipet, Tamil Nadu. In this video, we are going to learn a very important chapter in class 12 economics syllabus titled National Income and Related Aggregates. National income is a macroeconomic concept. So a question arises, what is this macroeconomics? The word macro originated from the Greek word makros, which means big, large. Macroeconomics is that branch of economics which studies the economy as a whole. It studies the economic problems faced by the economy as a whole, like national income, level of outputs, employment, etc. So macroeconomics is a branch of economics, and macroeconomics studies economic problems connected to the economy as a whole. We study the entire economy. We study national income, we study level of outputs, level of employment, etc. So definition for macroeconomics is, it is that branch of economics which studies economic problems relating to economy as a whole, like level of outputs, employment, income, etc. We start the lesson by discussing different types of goods. In economics, goods means material things that satisfy human wants. Material things that satisfy human wants are called goods. See, we buy various goods from the market. We buy vegetables, we buy scooter, car and other vehicles. We buy books, pen, etc. They are all goods. They are all material things that satisfy our wants. Goods are broadly divided into two categories: final goods and intermediary goods. Goods are divided into two categories: final goods and intermediary goods. Final goods are further divided into consumer goods and capital goods. Consumer goods are divided into durable goods, semi-durable goods and non-durable goods. Capital goods, they help in the production of other goods. Coming to intermediary goods, they are of two types. One, they are used up in production process like raw materials. Another one, the goods that are meant for resale. So these are the different categories into which goods are classified. We classify them into final goods and intermediary goods. Final goods are divided into consumer goods and capital goods. Consumer goods are of three types: durable, semi-durable and non-durable. Let us now discuss these different categories of goods in detail. We start with the final goods. Final goods. Final goods are those goods which are used either for direct consumption or for investment. You know, some final goods we are using for direct consumption. You go to a grocery shop, you buy various grocery items. You bring it to home and you consume it. So it's consumer goods. It is for direct consumption. Or you buy vegetables or fruits. You buy milk. These are all consumed by you and your family members. So they are final goods and they are used for direct consumption. So they are consumer goods also. But some final goods you are buying for making investments. For example, machines, tools, equipments. You are installing them in a factory and you are making use of them to produce other goods. They are called capital goods. So they are meant for investment. So final goods are those goods which are used either for direct consumption or for investment. Those goods that are used for direct consumption we call consumer goods. Those goods which are used for investment you call capital goods. Capital goods help in the production of other goods and services. For example, machines, tools, equipments, these are all capital goods because they help in the production of other goods. Whereas grocery items, vegetables, milk, bread, etc., they are all consumer goods because they are directly consumed by the people. So final goods can be either consumer goods or capital goods. So consumer goods I already told you, they are used to satisfy the wants of the consumer directly. So consumer goods are those goods that satisfy the wants of consumers directly. For example, television, mobile phone, vegetables, grocery items, they are all consumer goods or consumption goods because they are satisfying our wants directly. Now these consumption goods or consumer goods can be divided into three categories: durable goods, semi-durable goods and non-durable goods. What are these durable goods? Goods that can be used again and again for a long period of time. Goods that can be used again and again for a long period of time are called durable goods. For example, your television, your air conditioner, your car, your washing machine. You are using it continuously, but you can use it for many years, 5 years, 10 years, something like that. So they are called durable goods. Then semi-durable goods. Semi-durable goods can also be used again and again, but for a short period of time. Say your dress, your shoes, your footwear, these all you can use again and again, but only for a short period of time, maybe 1 year or 2 years or something like that. They are called semi-durable goods. Non-durable goods, they can be used only once. You can use them only once to satisfy your want. Grocery items, vegetables, bread, egg, they are all coming under non-durable goods. Capital goods I already told you, they help in the production of other goods and services. Machines, tools, equipments, etc. In economics, even inventories are considered as part of capital stock. What are inventories? Stock. See, a part of your output you will be storing, you will be stocking in your godown. That can also be considered as capital stock in economics. So capital goods help in the production of other goods and services. And even inventories or stock is also considered as a part of capital stock. So that's all about final goods. So we have learned the final goods can be either consumption or consumer goods or capital goods. Now coming down to intermediate goods. Intermediate goods are of two types. One, the goods that are used up in production process. Used up in production process, if you are producing a commodity, you make use of these intermediate goods and that intermediate goods disappear. It is used up. For example, a baker, he may buy wheat flour and he may make use of wheat flour to make bread. So wheat flour is used up. So all raw materials are coming under intermediate goods. All raw materials because they are all used up in production process. Now another type of intermediate good is goods that are purchased for resale. Say for example, a car dealer purchases car. It's considered intermediate good because it is meant for resale. Or a grocery shop owner, he purchases grocery items. What for he buy grocery items? To sell it again. Then it can be considered as intermediate goods. So intermediate goods are of two types. One, goods that are used up in production process. Another one, goods that are meant for resale. So let us now see the main differences between intermediate goods and the final goods. Intermediate goods, I already told you, they are either used up in production or they are brought for resale. Either used up in production or meant for resale. Whereas final goods are meant for direct consumption or for investment. Either for direct consumption or investment, final goods. Intermediate goods value, the value of intermediate goods we don't include in national income. The value of intermediate goods we do not include in national income. The reason I will tell you later. Whereas the value of final goods are included in national income. So intermediate goods value is not included in national income, whereas final goods value is included in national income. Intermediate goods are still in production boundary. They have not crossed the production boundary. Whereas final goods have crossed the production boundary and they have reached the consumer. Example for intermediate goods are bread purchased by a restaurant because they buy bread in order to make sandwich. So it is an intermediate good. Whereas bread purchased by a household is meant for direct consumption, so it is final good. So that's all about the differences between intermediate goods and the final goods. Let us now come to another important term, stock variable and flow variable. You know what is a variable? Variable is a characteristic which changes its value over time. Variable is a characteristic which changes its value over time. Say for example, number of students in a class, income of a group of people. These are all variables. They can be measured and they change their value over a period of time. Now these variables are divided into two categories, stock variables and the flow variables. Variables are divided into two categories, stock variables and the flow variables. Stock variables are those variables which are measured at a particular point of time. Say today at 10 o'clock, what is the value? So you are measuring at a particular point of time. That variable you call stock variable. For example, population of India on 17th April 2020. So population is measured at a particular point of time. So it is stock variable. Whereas flow variable is a variable which is measured during a period of time. During a period of time. Number of deaths during the year 2017. National income in a particular year. These are all flow variable because the value is measured during a period of time. So stock variable is measured at a particular point of time, whereas flow variable is measured during a period of time. Stock variable is a static concept, whereas flow variable is a dynamic concept. Stock variable is not time flexible, whereas flow variable is time flexible. I think you could understand the difference between stock variable and the flow variable. Stock variable is measured at a particular point of time, whereas flow variable is a variable which is measured during a period of time. Next important term which we have to learn is investment. What is actually investment? Investment refers to addition to capital stock of the economy. See, when firms buy capital goods, so we are making additions to our total capital stock. So additions to capital stock of the economy we call investment. Or we can put it in another way. Investment is expenditure on capital goods. Investment is expenditure on capital goods. Investment is of two types, gross investments and net investments. What is this gross and what is this net? See, total addition to capital stock of an economy during a year is called gross investment. total addition. Whereas actual addition to capital stock is called the net investment. So what is the difference between total addition and actual addition? I will tell you another example. It is not connected with investments, but to make you understand the difference between gross and net, let me tell you another example. Suppose a teacher is taking class. Class started. 10 students entered into the class. So what is total addition to the class? 10. 2 students went out of the class without the teacher's knowledge. 2 went out. So what is actual addition? Actual addition is only 8. 10 came in but 2 went out. So actual addition is only 8. So here gross investment and net investment, gross investment is total addition to capital stock. But you know that we are losing some capital due to depreciation. So that has to be subtracted from gross investment. We will get net investment. That is why we say net investment is actual addition made to capital stock of an economy. So net investment is equal to gross investment minus depreciation. If you subtract depreciation, loss or fall in the value of capital assets. Loss or fall in the value of capital assets. You are adding some machines, but some machines cannot be used. They break down. They have to be thrown out. So you are losing them. So that is what we call depreciation. So from gross investment we have to subtract depreciation in order to get a net investment. Depreciation, I already told you, it is fall in the value of fixed asset, fixed capital asset, maybe due to normal wear and tear, passage of time or expected obsolescence. Normal wear and tear. Continuously if you use a machine or an equipment, it will suffer wear and tear. Passage of time, if you keep a machine for a longer duration of time, it will lose its value. Expected obsolescence. What is this obsolescence? Due to change in technology, some capital fixed assets cannot be used. For example, typewriter nowadays nobody uses. So that is what we call, because computers have come, computers have replaced the typewriter. That is what we call expected obsolescence. So fall in the value of fixed assets. Fixed assets means fixed capital assets. As a result of wear and tear, passage of time or expected obsolescence, we call depreciation. Depreciation is otherwise called consumption of fixed capital. Depreciation is otherwise called consumption of fixed capital. Let us now go on to another important concept, circular flow of income. Circular flow of income. We need to learn only two-sector model as per our syllabus. What is this circular flow of income? It's a diagrammatic presentation of the interdependence between different sectors of an economy. An economy is divided into different sectors. Here we assume that there are only two sectors, households and firms. No government interference and no foreign sector because it's a closed economy. So only two sectors. Which are those two sectors? Households, families and firms. So interdependence between these two sectors, when it is presented in the form of a diagram, we call it circular flow of income. So what is circular flow of income? It's a diagrammatic presentation of the interdependence between different sectors of an economy. It's a diagram that explains interdependence between households and the firms. Have a look at the diagram. You can see that households, families provide factor services to firms. What are factor services? Land, labor, capital, organization. Land is provided by households. Labor is provided by people in the households. Capital is provided by households. Organizers also come from the households. So these factor services households provide it to firms. Households are providing factor services to firms. It's a real flow. Now, what do the firms do with the factor services? They make use of these factor services like land, labor, capital and organization and produce goods and services. Firms produce goods and services by using factor inputs. Now, firms will provide these goods and services to households. Correct? Now, households are getting goods and services from the firms. So here you can see interdependence. Households are providing factor services to firms and firms are providing goods and services to households. This we call real flow because factor services are coming to the firms and goods and services are coming to the households. So we call it real flow. And you know that firms are producing goods and services. When they produce goods and services, they are creating value. They are creating income. So we call it generation phase. Income is generated. When goods and services are produced, income is generated. You know that when we sell out that goods and services and when we get money, that money will go as income for those who supply the land, labor, capital and the organization. So we call it generation phase. So I think you could understand the real flow. Households are supplying factor services. What are the factor services? Land, labor, capital, organization. To whom households are giving these factor services? To firms. What do the firms do with these factor services? They make use of these factor inputs and produce goods and services. So income is generated. Generation phase. And what do they do with these goods and services? They supply these goods and services to households. This we call real flow. I think real flow is clear. Now, households, they provide factor services to firms. Firms will give them factor payments. Firms will give them reward for the factor inputs. Say land will be given rent, labor will be given wages, capital will get interest, organizer or entrepreneur will get a profit. So factor payments, money flow from households, firms to households. Firms are providing money to households in the form of factor payments. This is what we call distribution phase. Because income generated is distributed. Distributed to whom? To those who supply the factor inputs. The one who gave land, landlord, he will get rent. The one who gave capital, he will get interest. The one who provided labor will get wages. The one who organized the production will get profit. So income is distributed. We call it distribution phase. Now, households are getting income. What do they do with this income? They will pay this money back to the firms when they buy goods and the services. That is what we call consumption expenditure. People have to buy goods and services produced by the firms. So money which they received as factor payments, they pay back to the firms in the form of consumption expenditure. They buy various goods and services. For that they make the payment. So here you can see the flow of money between firms and the households. You know, factor payments are coming to the households. Rent, wages, interest and profit. And households are paying this money back. This we call disposition phase. the income earned is dispossessed. So money comes back to the firms. So this we call money flow. Flow of factor payments from firms to households and consumption expenditure from households to firms we call money flow. So this is what we call by the name circular flow of income. So here we learned about real flow. Real flow is otherwise called the physical flow. What is real flow? Household supply factor services like land, labor, capital and organization to firms. This is from households to firms. Firms produce goods and services and supply them back to households. So this is from firms to households. So when firms are producing goods and services, we call it generation phase because income is generated. Next is money flow. I already told you firms will give rent, wages, interest and profit to households. Income is distributed, distribution phase. Then households are getting income, they will pay back to firms in the form of consumption expenditure. It is called the disposition or dispensation phase. So this we call money flow or nominal flow. So that's all about the circular flow of income.